Also joining us, CNN political commentators Ben Ferguson and Mark Lamont Hill. Ben, let me begin with you. President Obama says his executive order is not amnesty. What do you think?
Well, I would ask the people that were celebrating in front of the White House with signs that said Gracias Presidente Obama if they thought they got amnesty. If you're saying that someone cannot be deported and the longer you've been here, the better your chances of never being deported, I think it's amnesty regardless of what you call it.
But it's not forever, Ben. Ben, it's not forever.
No.
Well, it depends on who you ask. I mean, if you're saying that you're not going to pursue deporting individuals and that you have this path to citizenship as he used in Las Vegas, I would ask the young people that were in that crowd, do you think that you're going to be deported? The answer from the president's mouth is no. You play by my new rules, not Congress, my new rules, and you get to stay.
Mark?
Okay, if I don't play by the rules, I never get deported. If Ben doesn't play by the rules, he never gets deported. Do you know why? Because we are full citizens. Under this circumstance, they have to play by a set of rules to not be deported. The threat of deportation hovers over them. That's what makes it not amnesty. If you have to pay a fine, it's not amnesty. Any circumstance which results in you being deported makes it not amnesty. Now, let's be clear here. The president is playing a word game. The president is trying to thread a very careful needle here by saying it's not amnesty. But the truth is, we've already had amnesty. We've done nothing on immigration for decades now. And as a result, people walk around, they don't pay taxes, they fly under the radar, they're not being deported. They have the most perfect form of amnesty that undermines everything else. Now people have a chance to be citizens,
so
they have a chance to have temporary citizenship.
Mickey, let me get Mickey in here. Mickey, respond to Mark's point. Is Mark right on that point, that essentially what we've had is amnesty?
He's right that they're not being deported now. To that extent, we have amnesty. But Obama's giving them work permits. That's the key. And if I were an African American, I would be very upset about this. 56% of African Americans, only 56% with a high school degree, are employed. Now he's importing 4 or 5 million more people who are going to compete for jobs with African Americans who have a hard enough time as it is.
Well, they're going to be competing with everyone for jobs. I mean, Mickey, they're going to be competing with everyone.
Exactly. But historically, immigrants have pushed African Americans out of the sort of jobs that they traditionally did. And that's going to continue, and that's no favor to the African-American community.
Let me ask you this. Historically speaking, it's important to have context here because we've heard the administration say over and over again, presidents have done this in the past. So, Mickey, from a strictly factual perspective on history, how does this stack up against President Reagan's 1986 move on immigration?
Well, Reagan's move was a piece of legislation, so that was passed by Congress. That was okay. Then he added a minor thing to help sort of tie up the loose ends. Bush tied up some more loose ends. They were both much smaller, about a tenth the size of this, and they were in furtherance of what Congress tried to do. This is not in furtherance of what Congress tried to do. Congress blocked his bill. Obama said, "I'm going to do it anyway."
Ben, I'd like your perspective.
Well, no, that's not what. No, hold on. That's not what happened.
Guys, Mark, go ahead, then Ben.
I was going to say, that's not what happened here. People act as if the president has somehow made a sweeping immigration bill that Congress can't add on to. The truth is what the president has done is within his executive power, he has simply set the implementation and enforcement priorities of the White House. There's still the possibility of deportation.
Mark,
things still can happen, and we still need Congress to get to do their job. That's a fact.
Just because Congress doesn't do what you want them to do, it doesn't give you the right to write law. I mean, even President Barack Obama said this for more than 3 years. On more than 10 occasions, he came out and said, "I'm not an emperor." And then he said, "You know what? I don't like what they're doing right now, so I'm going to do it anyway." That's not how our Congress works.
Ben, how long do you wait then?
But
how long do you wait for wait for the bill that was passed by the Senate to be brought up in the House?
Very simply, as long as it takes for Congress to do their job, because when you're the President of the United States of America, there is nothing in the Constitution that says you get to do what you want to do when you don't get your way because you don't like Congress. This is a very significant purpose. Hold on, let me finish this, Mark. This is important. You don't get to pout and decide when your timeline is up. This is Congress's job to deal with it. Here's the other thing. You have a new Congress coming in, so things may change. In fact, the Senate's changing. But what the president saw was, I'm not going to get what I want with a new Congress. I don't want to compromise. So I'm going to write my own law, and they can deal with it.
Okay.
And that's why this is a firestorm.
30 seconds before the break to you, Mickey, here. How much is the GOP risking important votes from Latinos at this point in terms of its stance on this?
Well, we saw that they did better among Latinos in the midterms than they had in the presidential. So I think they're risking some, but they're not risking a lot. And, you know, the Democrats are risking a whole bunch of white working class voters who are just as numerous, if not more numerous, who they're alienating by their pro-amnesty stand. So I think it sort of balances out. I just think it's bad policy. There's no rule that just because the Senate passes something, the House has to pass it. The House is co-equal branch. They didn't like it. I don't like it. And Obama lost that legislative fight, and now he's trying to change the rules and impose it unilaterally. It's just not the way our Constitution is supposed to work.